Welcome, everyone. And forgive me if I'm a little late, just having some technical difficulties here. Um, I'm glad you're here. I am Minister Dr. Akila Ka Ma'at, and welcome all. Love and lights, Ashe. Thank you to the Akh Ascension series. I really appreciate you being here. Before we get started today, I'm just going to ask you to please like, subscribe, and hit notifications if you are enjoying the things that I say and the things that I communicate and share, so that other people can be inspired, perhaps like you. And I really appreciate that. So thank you so much. Today, we're just going to jump right into it, okay? Today, we're going to talk about Ren and Nommo, the word that makes a thing. And, Ren is part of the Gate of Ba. We traversed into that area yesterday with our conversation regarding Officer Tatum and his communication. If you want to know more about that, please feel free to watch the video from yesterday. And so you don't need yesterday to be here today, okay? And so if you were here yesterday, welcome back. So, yesterday and looking at his video and then discussing it, we really experienced the erasure of a name, experience, and a people. And as I move forward in this live stream today, you'll understand what I mean by that. And today, with Ren and Nommo, we're going to learn how to raise all three. Again, name, experience, and Nommo. And in the process, the goal is to reclaim two of the most powerful things that your ancestors gave you. Okay? The first is your true name. And the second is the power to speak a thing into being. And of course, this is all wrapped within Melanin Metaphysics, Kim Metaphysics, the power that we have in our melanin to transcend any condition in this world, in this society, in your life. Okay? And so if this is your first time here, like I said, you're not behind. We just talked a little bit about the Gate of Ba yesterday. And so I just ask you to be open to the teachings today, and be honest with yourself. If you see anything here that speaks to perhaps your actions or behaviors of people that you may know. And if you're watching this and find that you have resonance with it, perhaps share this video with someone who might find this information useful as well. So thank you so much. So as I said yesterday, we are in, and earlier, before I'm saying this, we are in the Gate of Ba. That's the second gate, and the Gate of Ba is the flight. And it's in the power release framework, recognize is the Gate of Ka, if I'm going to lay it on this, and the Gate of Ba is the release, and reframe what is the next gate, the Gate of Akh. Okay? And what this gate is, the Gate of Ba, is the gate of your true and unique self, my friends. The one-of-a-kind soul that is you and no one else. Okay? And today we're going to focus on Ren, which is your name. Ren is your true name, your eternal name, and the word power of your very identity. So we're going to reclaim all of this today as much as we can in this live stream. We're going to seek to find remedy for erasure and what it is that our ancestors know and communicate with us continually, to which we need to be fervent in seeking to talk back, or as they say, clap back. I don't know if that's a good term or not, but it seemed like a fun thing to say. Our ancestors all across the continent held names, in the way the modern world has almost entirely lost them, with all these nicknames and not even names, just words to call somebody in to being of a thing. It's really interesting how we have evolved so far afoot from what it is our ancestors have given us. Okay? To them, a name was never a label. All right? A name was, and is a living thing. All right? In the wisdom of the Nile Valley, my friends, all right, the Ren was understood to be one of the most essential parts of the soul, standing right alongside of the Ka, the life force, and the Ba, which is your personality. Okay? Life force Ka is your bloodline. All right? Your name is a piece of your soul. And they believed your true name held your entire essence, my friends, the whole of who you are, folded down into a sacred word. And because the name held essence, my friends, they believed that a person's existence could last only as long as their name is remembered and still spoken. Powerful. As long as someone somewhere still said your name, you still lived. So they carved their names into the walls of their tombs, wrapped their names in an oval called the cartouche, and that's Egyptian, and set them into stone. Some people carve them into trees nowadays, maybe with some of that similar energy speaking to them in some way. Children were taught to speak the names of the dead. I can't imagine children being taught to speak the names of the dead today. To speak a name was to grant a soul eternal life. But there's also a shadow side to this, which is really important. And speaking a name grants internal life, my friends, the ultimate death, the deepest annihilation of a person that they could ever suffer was not the death of the body, it was the erasure of a name. When a person truly wanted to destroy someone, right, to wipe them out, not just of life, but of eternity itself, they did not kill the person, right? They chiseled their name out of the stone, got rid of it. Later cultures, such as, gave it a Latin name, right? And that is called, I hope I don't butcher this, damnatio memoriae. Damnatio memoriae, the damnation of memory. And our ancestors did it to their own, my friends. They did it to Hassaput. I don't know if you remember these folks. One of the greatest African rulers ever produced, my friends. A woman, and after she died, they went through her monuments and scratched her name away. Very problematic. Trying to erase her from the record of eternity. And then there was Akhenaten, right? To erase the name was to commit the ultimate murder, the murder of the soul itself. And we can see some of this occur in various activities, such as blowing the nose off the Sphinx, destroying certain things that showed the identity of a people, particularly they were Kim people, getting rid of evidence of that. This is similar in the vein of a name, all right? Erasing the likenesses of particular cultures to then deny that that culture ever existed or did that thing. Usually it's a big thing, okay? We see the erasure of names in the inventions that have been co-opted from Black inventors who never received the credit. Their names are not aligned with these inventions. So it is something that has stayed the test of time. This idea of erasing a name and then replacing it, as you well know, and I may get into that a little bit, with a name of a Caucasian individual. So erasing a name is the oldest weapon in the book. It really is. And it was done to our ancestors on the auction block, right? Changing the name of the African name to a Caucasian name, signifying property, ownership over the individual. They took the name your mother gave you and stamped a slaveholder's name in its place. It is what the government does, my friends, when it removes the busts and flags it exhibits, right? And it is what the corrupted identity does. As we talked about yesterday, when a man builds sort of his success out of erasing kin people, that is problematic. That's the corrupted self, a kin person erasing kin people. So remembrance, the speaking of the name, in direct, not conflict, but as antithetical to that, remembrance, the speaking of name, is our oldest and deepest medicine. Okay. And what your Ren actually is underneath all of that, your Ren is your true, uncorrupted self, the self that sits underneath of every single label the world has ever stuck on you. Reclaiming begins by just remembering you have a true name at all. All right. And I really want to talk for a second about the people in Mali called the Dogon, right? Who I admire so much, particularly when it comes to how they were able to map star systems without even having a telescope. Okay. The Dogon carried a concept, one of the most profound spiritual concepts on this entire earth that many religious centers practice and preach. And they called it Nommo. And Nommo is the power of the spoken word, but not power the way we usually mean it, like a persuasive speech, right? Power to move people through talking in a persuasive speech or propaganda, right? I mean generative power, creative power. To the Dogon, a word was not just a label that describes a thing that already exists. The word is a living spiritual force that brings a thing into being. So the word does not describe a thing, my friends. The word makes a thing. All right. You know, Nommo is the force that gives life to everything seen and unseen. Hence the speaking of our ancestors' names out loud. So nothing happens in a society without Nommo. If the word did not exist, they said all the forces of life would be suspended. Additionally, because we would have nothing to claim as aspects in this 3D reality, right? There would be no word for these things. So in essence, they may not come into being in this 3D reality for us to see and interact with them. And that's a little deep. I don't want people to get confused in that. But all the life forces would be suspended. There'd be no creation. So there would be no life at all. They taught that human beings have power over the word, which means you, with your own mouth, can direct the life force itself. The Dogon thought the word cannot be separated from the truth, my friends. That the form and the truth are one. Naming is a sacred act. That to name a thing is to anchor it in reality, right? And to give it its purpose. And all that magic in the end is word magic, my friends. That whether it comes as a blessing or as a curse. The power is the very same power. The power is the word, which is exactly why our ancestors treated speech as a sacred responsibility that we have almost entirely lost. We just say anything to ourselves and anybody. Every single thing you say either builds or breaks. There's no neutral word, my friends. That is why elders, ancestors always taught us to speak life. And that's a church saying for some. I learned it in church. Speak life. Don't speak death, because the words have power. So this is not a secret, but where this comes from and how it's attached to Kim Peoples is because this is our inheritance, my friends. The ancestors knew this very same power, and they called it hu-sia. And I may not be pronouncing that correctly, but I'm doing the best job I can. hu-sia, hu-sia. The power of the authoritative word, the utterance that creates. One of my sayings is, if I don't have anything nice to say, be that to me, to anybody, about anything, I do not say anything at all. And I do not think it. Okay? Because thoughts are energy and they have creative power as well. And so the ancestors did one thing I need you to hold on to right now, okay? Because this is essential when we talk about this authoritative word. The ancestors bound that idea to ma'at, all right? To truth and balance and right order. The word that actually creates, my friend, the word that heals and builds and sustains a whole community is the word that is aligned with the truth. And so the word torn away from the truth does not create anything. As a matter of fact, it destroys. And we see that with with Officer Tatum. We see that with Trump in office. We see that with Mike Johnson. We see who's the Speaker of the House. We see that with people who say things to us just so they feel better, but still trying to denigrate someone, right? By having no truth to what they say. Lovers, husbands, wives, boyfriends, they will speak non-truth to each other, and this destroys, this breaks down. This is a problem because to say anything is so normal and natural. It's like the air that we breathe. The first thing somebody would have to do if they are seeking to change their life is to change what they say. Period. If you believe that spiritual awakening or conscious rising means that you can say the same things after this occurs, that's too late. To begin this walk into anew, the idea of Nommo and the authoritative word has to be active as soon as you realize that you want to change your life. Period. So, the word torn away from truth does not create anything. And if you're honest with yourself, you can see the ways that perhaps your words and others have done damage to situations. It brings chaos. And scholars of our own time, I know Dr. Malefi Kete Asante, he's a communication scholar, have talked about Nommo. Nommo is how people names its present reality and reimagines and speaks into being a different future. It is the root of everything we are known for. the power of the Black preacher, the power of the Kim poet, the power of the spoken word, the power that once moved an entire movement. That is Nommo, and it is in your blood right here and right now. So look, I want to put these two pieces together, the Ren and the Nommo. So Ren is your true name, all right? And Nommo is the power that makes a name real, brings, it creates, right? It means that when you speak your true name, my friends, and when you speak life over yourself, you are not just talking, you are practicing Nommo on your own Ren, your name. You are taking the generative power of the word, and you are using it, my friends, to call your true self. To call your true self up and out of the corrupted mask. And that corrupted mask is social conditioning. It's sitting in trauma that you cannot release, or that you don't want to release, because, as I've talked about a long time ago, the pain body is something that feels good for some people. It gives them comfort and they don't want to come out. Some people writhe and revel in chaos, right? And so the idea of thinking of a life without chaos is severely problematic, right? And so it's very hard to rise up and out of a corrupted self and bring yourself into being. You are speaking yourself into existence on purpose. And, I do not like to talk about myself at all. I don't think I'm interesting by any stretch of the imagination. But when we talk about Ren and Nommo, I had a name, right? A birth name. I don't talk about it that much. It's everywhere, though, because I'm a published author, published scientific articles. My career as an academic. And then I changed my name. And it wasn't because I chose the name I have, Akila Ka Ma'at. The name was given to me. And if you go back and look at some of my old clips, I had a very hard time remembering what the ancestors and the cosmos had given to me, because I kept calling myself Akila. It was hard for it to come out. And so I realized over time, I had one name, which I call the working name, right? The Social Security name, the name that signs the checks, the name that signs the mortgage papers, the name that signs, right? And then I have my spiritual name that calls into being the essence of who I've been told that I am. Okay? And so I do share that signature name if someone asked me. But it was important to understand Akila Ka Ma'at as calling into being a power that was beyond and fed by something bigger and larger than myself. Not to mention when I am in hostile territories, they can only call me by my spirit name, because that is my Kim power. And my given name is a secret, which is part of the gate of Ba of Ren. You have a name that is secret. Think about it. In Korean society, you cannot call a person by their first name. You can only call them by their last name. And that is because the first name is familiar only to people that care about this individual. So when it is called into being, and I am extrapolating perhaps what's happening in that culture, because I don't know 100% sure, but when they speak that secret name in the home, it has power. It calls into existence the relationships that are operative in that space. Okay? And so many people have been doing this idea of Nommo when it comes to rent, right? Because everything we speak, every word you have spoken over yourself and over others, whether that's good or bad, is Nommo. Whether a single person has ever told you about speaking life or death. When you look in the mirror and you say, I am not enough. What's wrong with me? I can't do anything. I can't get anything. When you fail and you say, I always fail. This is my life. I can't get a break. When you shrink in a room and said, I'm just too much for these people. I need to restrict, contain, oppress my own self. My friend, those are not neutral observations. They are incantations. Do you understand the power of Nommo? To speak these things, they're incantations. Now, people take that and want to wrap it around some witch activity and ritual, but words are ritualistic. If they are creating and destroying, then there is ritual. They are incantations. They are doing something fundamental. They create spells, you know? They create spells that you are casting over your life. That's powerful. The word is an incantation, and when you speak, however you speak, you are casting a spell over your life and yourself and your family and your friends and your community, your neighborhood, your home, your job, your boss, your co-workers, your soccer team, on and on and on. This is just not, my life. I only speak, over my life. No, every utterance is an incantation, and incantations have an energy that comes back. Nommo, the power of the word, my friends. And so the word was making the thing. Remember that. The word was making the thing. And then you wondered why your life kept looking like the words you were using to describe it. That is so fundamental to just metaphysics all the way around. It doesn't have to be Kim metaphysics. It's just metaphysics. What you speak and put out, that spell, that incantation, is what you get back and what you reap. So, understand the question is not whether or not you are speaking Nommo. That's not the question, my friends. You do every single day in your life, out loud and under your breath. The only question is, what have you been speaking into being? It's a powerful question. Have you been speaking life over you, your name? Reflection questions there. And I encourage everybody to get the guidebook, the REN. It's on powerprofit.com and the resource. And now I have to bring yesterday back, right? Yesterday we did the Officer Tatum thing, because two things that we watched, right? The corruption and the medicine, right? So look, they're actually the same. Let me just tell you more about the corruption and the medicine, okay? They are the same, pointed in two opposite directions. Nommo can build. Nommo can build or Nommo can break. It can bless, it can curse. The exact same force. It's the same thing, same incantation. And yesterday we watched Nommo turned all the way onto death with the commentary at 2:30. We watched a man take the generative power of the word and use it to erase names, experiences, and ultimately a people. Now, Dr. Ma'at, you're being really hyperbolic. If Nommo, which is no if, but I'm going to say it like cause and effect. If Nommo is real, then that is what happened yesterday in watching Officer Tatum. Okay? He took everything that our ancestors, your ancestors, built with their bare hands and turned it into a doghouse, a backyard, a poop and pee filled yard with a little water system. This is not the absence of power, my friend. That is power itself, aimed at annihilation. Hence, my analysis of him as a corrupted self who wants to annihilate people. He does not understand the generative power of his words. Maybe it's not even understanding that. He may not care, like many people do not. There's also the belief that that's not true. There are plenty of successful people who've gotten that way because they understand the power of Nommo, the law of correspondence, so above, so below. You speak it out, it comes. Universal laws of the universe. Laws of the universe, or universal laws, however you want to put it. It's real. Quantum entanglement has given science to this. Quantum entanglement is all about energy. The words we speak are energy. They become entangled at a quantum level and they begin to do things. So if you want science, science is there to show that this is true. It sets things in motion and brings things back to you and creates conditions, quantum entanglement. So it is essential to really think about the words that you say to yourself, to others. Okay? Look, what he did in that clip, it was aimed at annihilation. That is hu-sia, as I talked earlier, severed from ma'at, the word torn away from the truth, my friends. And in Kim tradition, it has a word for what the word becomes when it leaves the truth behind. When the word leaves the truth behind, it becomes chaos. And there is no better example than what is happening in the United States of Americans today with the words that are coming out of the commander-in-chief and the people who are repeating his words. They are casting spells over the citizens of this land. Fear, insecurity, hate, anger, violence. They're casting spells. So someone could say, well, they're actually doing it. Of course, words have creative power. The truth taking out of a word creates chaos. So yes, of course, they would actually be doing it because they have spoken this into existence, this untruth, creating corrupted selves who will go like an army of soulless and create the conditions. Because they have spoken the incantation over and over and over again every day for the past 10 plus years. It's no mistake. If people are like, people dumb, they're stupid. No, these people are under a spell. So, when it becomes chaos, my friends, it becomes the thing that Ma'at is set to hold back, right? Ma'at holds the cosmos together. And Isfet, who is in this day and age considered Satan or the devil, Isfet can also be seen as low frequency energy and frequency vibration, Ma'at a higher frequency. So Ma'at is set in place always to hold Isfet back. And sometimes Isfet metaphorically becomes active in word incantations. So this is the choice that sits inside every mouth. And I'm going to say every thought, because again, thoughts are energy and they are connected to the cosmos. So the choice sits inside every mouth, yours, mine. The corrupted identity, my friends, uses the word to speak death, okay, over others and themselves. And in the end, because you cannot curse others without cursing yourself, this is what happens. And people always wonder, why me, right? The true self, however, uses the word to speak life, because the true self, there's an innate and maybe an awakened understanding of the power of Nommo. And when you get to choose every single day which one you are going to be, that's important. You have a choice, right? So how do we reclaim Ren? How do we get to the true name? How do we use Nommo to step back into being if somehow we have been erased or sensing an erasure? Nommo has two conditions. It may have more, but this is the teaching I'm doing today. 2 rules for how the power works. The first rule is the word has to be spoken out loud, the creative power, out loud, calling of names of your ancestors, out loud. Thoughts are important because they are energy. Out loud is what is critical. Not journaled in a book, but journaling is important because that is great reflective insights where downloads can come. Spoken out loud so that it leaves your mouth, moves the air, and vibrates in the room and in your own chest. Like, it vibrates. There's power. So, the power is the utterance itself. A blessing you never say out loud is not yet a blessing. So, the reclaiming of your name is not a quiet mental exercise. It is a thing that you say. And I just want to pivot for a second when we talk about the reclaiming of your name. You know, it has always, once, I moved into Akila Ka Ma'at. I think even before that whole exercise, I didn't like saying nicknames. I mean, I had a nickname in high school. People wanted to shorten my given name, right? But I would refuse. The nicknames, well, I was in high school. I didn't care. I thought they were cute. After a while, I refused. Nicknames, I refused. Don't shorten my name. when people come into my space and they're like, my name is so and so, but call me cheeky or something. I don't use people's preferred nicknames. Kimberly, you can call me Kim. No, I will call you Kimberly because I understand the power that comes with speaking the name over the individual. They exist fully without an abbreviation, which is energy that impacts that individual. And people will want to force you to call them a nickname because they don't know. And then they'll get mad sometimes when you refuse to call them Petey. I think it's important, as I have done in my life, to let the individual know why you're not going to use their preferred nickname and why it's important. Unless there's trauma associated with that name, then you may need to adjust. I know a woman from George Mason University where I was teaching. Actually, she was a student, a doctoral student. And in the time that I was there with her, she changed her first name. No, she changed her last name. And she would never tell me her first name. And I respected her for that because the idea of that name having power, and it is secretive. That's the real Ren, the secret name. But she changed her last name and I asked her why. And she said because it had too much trauma. When it was said, it raised up. It was generative. It created an experience of severe discomfort. So she changed it. You know, people know you reclaim your name. Doesn't mean you got to sit in your given your birth name. Many of us have understood or had downloads about what we should call ourselves, our spirit self, and refuse to do it because we think it may confuse somebody. Let them be confused. That's their problem. The goal is to call yourself into being, to give existence to the true identity over the corrupted self the society wants us all to be. Power in a name, my friends. So, the second rule is that Nommo is communal. It's communal. The power of the word, the authoritative word, it's communal. It is meant to be done together. The Dogon tribe in the Congo, right, where I began this live stream. The word itself is tied to the idea. The Dogon word itself, Nommo, is tied to the idea of taking one drink of shared water of shared life. Okay, so Nommo itself is tied to the idea of making one drink of shared water of shared life. Nommo lives in the call and response, something that really only happens in Black churches or at a protest. It also lives in repetition, saying it, calling, responding over and over. We saw this when the Ayatollah in Iran died and the billions of people that came out to mourn his death. I'm not saying any of this because I support anything. I'm using it as an example. The speaker would say something and these billions, millions of people would respond. Power and community and a shared understanding of the power of the word. So, and they would say it, or they would do that over and over. If you watch some of those videos, they just kept doing it over and over and over again. For some people, that's scary because it's a vibration that impacts people who don't understand it and who also want to create chaos, right? It's scary to some folks. What's going on? It was scary to me when I first saw it in some settings where I didn't think, I don't know, it was just done oddly, right? And it just didn't feel right. But when it's right, you can feel the power, right? You know, Nommo lives in a room full of people holding the truth of one another and speaking a truer future out loud together until everyone in the room believes it. Going back to that mass celebration of this man's death, the call and response that was happening there, and the belief that they all held. This is why we can raise a broken person all the way up at any time. Right? We all have that power to speak life over that person. Raise that person up. Somebody's feeling down. Oh, first of all, that's, don't let them speak if they can only say negative things. But you speak life over that person and you can raise that person up at any time. That is your power. That is a power. If words are incantations and they cast spells, you have the power to heal anyone with your voice. Now that can look different in different ways. I'm not talking about you're going to eradicate cancer in somebody, but that definitely is possible. That is why the civil rights movement sang. And they did call a response too, right? Because it lifted them up. It gave them a shared vibration, a shared energy that for Kim people stretches all the way back across time, across continents. That is all Nommo. Practice in community. So, look, I could go on and on about Nommo and the spoken word, right? Because a lot of this exists in me as a creature of the church at one time. And I was a charismatic Christian, so they was all about speaking life and death, prosperity. And I was a lot of different kind of religious archetypes. Now I'm a spiritual flame. I don't know why I said that. It just came into my head, right? I'm a signal. A flame is a signal. So look, I'm gonna let you know how to continue this work with me. But first, I'm gonna speak life to you, okay? Because I've been talking about it. Look, you are not the same name that they gave you on the auction block, my friend. You are not the name the world called you when it wanted you small, my friends. You are not the mask, my friends. And you are not the corrupted version of yourself that the main house wanted you to be and wanted to reward you for. You are your Ren, my friends, your true name, your eternal name, the one your ancestors are still speaking over you right now on the other side, keeping you alive. And you carry Nommo, the generative power of the word in your mouth, which means you have right now, here today, everything you need to call your true being to life. Speak life, my friend, over yourself, over your children, over your people, over your environment. Speak life, okay? Now, two things before I let you go, all right? And as you know, I'm kind of feeling a little something today. I'm a little low energy for whatever reason, but two things that I want to share with you right now, because everything I gave to you today and for tomorrow, we're going to take it out of the body and put it into practice in your breath, in your voice. So tomorrow is practice. where we actually speak. I may actually do the practice live at 2:30. We reclaim the name out loud and we do it together. We incantate together, right? So do not just receive this and miss out tomorrow. So come back 2:30. And this is where it all becomes real. Talk is cheap, right? Not. As a little spot quiz. And second, when you are ready to do this as a way of life, to learn more about Nommo and use it, come to the temple, right? I got these little widgets that I love to show. Ooh, here's my widget. I hope you can see it. I'm gonna put it over here where I'm looking. Melanin Metaphysics, can you see it? Yes. This is awesome. This is the resource page. On this page, and sometimes there's like a little, let me move it over. There's a little scroll bar. I'm not seeing it now. But this is the page you want to come to get the Ren practice guide, okay? And on this page is also the temple, right? I'm not sure why it's not moving. Let me see. No, that's not moving. But yeah. Nope. All right, tell me to get rid of it. I can't even do that. Oh, hi. I know y'all think this woman is insane. Don't speak that over me. I just spoke it over myself, right? So what I want to show you is a QR code for the temple. All right. So here we go. This takes you directly to the resource page so you can join. This is the stuff that we do in the temple. This is the stuff that you get, you practice, you understand deeply. You're in a community of people who are on the same wave that you are, right? You're not all the same. We all have different experiences, different lives, but we are seekers. And I'm still seeking too. I myself am still a student, always lifelong learning, but we're all together to practice these things together. I offer resources, in-depth videos about Akh Ascension, all the 9 bodies of light, the gates. I offer live weekly practice, live practice. We do live discussions. You can post, share, communicate with each other. I provide resources other than just me, the resources that have lifted me up in learning and understanding this. It is a true community where you'll find camaraderie, sisterhood, brotherhood, whatever kind of hood that is necessary for you. We built it because the temple is a living, breathing entity of seekers. It's an organism of personal growth and ascension. Not ascension over people, but spiritual ascension, conscious awakening. So I invite you. And you get a 7-day free trial. $44 a month subscription. Cancel anytime. I invite you into the temple to join with like-minded folks. And that's it. That's it for today. That is it. You have a true name and you have the power. You need to speak it. You understand. Nommo, aligned with incantations, words have spells over your life. And I think that's the most critical thing. Words spoken are spells. They're incantations. They bring things into being and they take things away. Very important. Very important. So I want you to go speak life. Practice speaking life all day. Only say things that generate life, that lift people up, that lift you up. I challenge you to make a day out of it. And if you catch yourself, change what you said. If you forget, don't worry about it. When you remember again, start to do it again. And it will become a way of life. This today is one of the most critically important live streams I have ever done on YouTube since February. That's when I started. Until we see each other tomorrow, in the black light, you have a glorious, wonderful, inspiring, productive, fruit-filled, speaking life day. I'm Minister Dr. Akila Ka Ma'at. Oh, gotta do one more thing before I go. Sorry. One more thing. I am Minister Dr. Akila Ka Ma'at. Please like, subscribe, and hit notifications so that others may have access to this in the algorithm, and so that you are always knowing when our videos drop. Okay? Be blessed. Bye-bye, everybody. Have a good day.